Hello, I'm Professor Zach, and welcome to today's special edition episode of Zachipedia. Now, today, most of you know that I do special edition episodes on things such as holidays, like Thanksgiving, Halloween, Christmas, the usual. But today's episode, I'm not really going to tell you exactly what happened in the history, for everyone kind of knows the story of Thanksgiving. But do you really know the real story? Today's episode, or special edition episode, I'm going to tell you the different flaws and the brutality of the first Thanksgiving, and what really happened than what they tell you in your history class. Now, let's start with the beginning. Most people told you that the Pilgrims immigrated to the New World from England and Scotland for religious freedom. But really, that's not really what happened. What really happened is that the Great Britain, England and Scotland, mostly had colonies in the New World, but they just didn't have real colonies. They didn't have people in there to colonize their land. So they hired the Pilgrims with some pay to go over there and basically colonize or have people on their land. Though some did go for religious freedom, it was mostly for that reason. Now, the second thing was that the Native Americans and the Pilgrims weren't that nice to each other. First off, the Native Americans spied on them from the treetops, and it was known that recently found out that the Native Americans with bow and arrow actually sniped the Pilgrims when they came out of their homes. For there was a startling rate in deaths in the first winter of 1620. And even though it was mostly due to bad weather and climate and basically bad living conditions and the not really knowing how to survive there, some of it was from these snipings. Second thing that happened is that though it's not historically proven, most historians believe, due to hard evidence and lots of facts, that the Pilgrims, during a brief period before the first Thanksgiving of 1621, actually resorted to some slight cannibalism. Now, because of this, some Pilgrims did die of being eaten, but since not a startling rate passed on, they believe it wasn't a big or long period of time. The other thing that came about was when basically the Pilgrims were also very brutal to the Native Americans. Now, what happened is that I basically feel the first Thanksgiving was just a way that the Pilgrims used or took advantage of the Native Americans to survive. Or they made this huge turkey and had, or did they? Or basically had this big feast for all the people, or the Native Americans. But after that, most people believe the reason why they did that, so the Native Americans would teach them everything, like what food to hunt, where they were, how to survive, things like that. And then after that, Miles Standish, who was known to be a peaceful hunter and liaison, led a platoon of troops to go to Native American camps and raid them. They were known to burn, decimate, and destroy the entire village of Native Americans, and they would beat and kill anyone they could catch. And to make it even worse, with some of the Native American warriors who were caught as prisoners of war were all decapitated. And their heads to celebrate, or the Pilgrims, to celebrate their victory, actually got the heads, stuffed them, and played headball, which is basically soccer, or known around the world otherwise as football, but instead of soccer balls, with Native American heads. Now, the last two things to wrap this up were that basically the first Thanksgiving wasn't really the first Thanksgiving, for there were two Thanksgivings before that, and they both were in the great and festivo land of St. Augustine. The first one was in 1563, when basically the Pope, or let me rephrase that, or Mother Teresa I, known as the religious activist, finally managed to get the Pope of Catholicism and the leaders of Protestantism and members of their inner circle to come together and have a feast. Though it kind of failed afterwards, it was still a great enlightenment and considered to be the very first Thanksgiving. The second one, before the Pilgrims and the Native American Thanksgiving, was also in St. Augustine, and that was when Lord Skernio of the British fleet finally managed to bring about his men to come into peace with the Native Americans of northern St. Augustine. However, after, he was fired for reasoning with the enemy, and his new general decimated that entire civilization. Lastly, in the first Thanksgiving of the Pilgrims and Native Americans, they actually didn't serve turkey. They served a pheasant, which was a bird and known delicacy both to the Native Americans and the Plymouth colonists. However, in the 1700s, the pheasant became extinct. So, in 1865, when U.S. President Abraham Lincoln officially annexed Thanksgiving as a national holiday, they served the bird closest to it, peacock. And that ended up becoming a major disaster. So the next Thanksgiving, the Thanksgiving of 1866, they served the second bird closest to the pheasant. The pigeon, duh! Anyway, the pigeon was cooked in a pie known as pigeon pie, which was a British aristocratic delicacy. But that, of course, did not go well. And so then finally, the next Thanksgiving of 1867 was the third closest bird, the turkey. Now, I hope this video taught you of the brutality and some of the secrets and flaws of the real Thanksgiving and how it really happened. Well, I guess that this video is over, so happy Thanksgiving all. Enjoy your turkey while you still can.